Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Abez Show, where today my guest is someone I just graduated from our Dubai FinTech program. I thought it would be good to bring him on for him to talk more about what happened the last couple of months and just have an interesting chat with him. Hey, Steven, how are you?
Hey, thank you. Thanks for inviting me. I'm doing really well. I'm pleased to be here.
It's always good to talk to you. And I wanted to know more about what you do and, tell me more about, your journey. And actually, I want to know more about you as well. So.
Sure. So I always worked in investment banking. So I did my maths and economics degree. I asked my friends, I said, hey, what are you guys doing? And they were looking at management consultancy, accounting, and banking. So I looked at accounting and I thought, well, I don't want to study for 3 more years. And I looked at consultancy and I was like, well, they're really long hours and you don't get the chance to pick where you work. So I thought, let's try banking. So after applying for loads of banks in my last year, I think probably about 30 applications, I got accepted onto zero. So I thought, right, what can I do? So after I finished uni, I thought I still really think I can work in banking. So for 3 months, I applied for internships around the world and I got accepted in America. So it's unpaid. So I thought if I just get an unpaid internship at the top investment bank, that's going to propel my career. So I worked at Merrill Lynch in Boston and worked for free for 3 months, took a loan out to support myself. And ever since then, I was flown back to London for meetings, for interviews, didn't get those. But I worked in Australia and then London, and then finally my first job in Goldman Sachs. And then from then on, it was good. So I worked at a number of top investment banks over 15 years in a number of different products. And I saw that there was a gap in some areas within the trading floor. So then that led me to start my own trading platform and company. And that's how I became part of Startup Bootcamp.
Nice, nice. You know what? I remember the first time you pitched, I think, and I was very interested in because it was not your typical idea. And keep in mind, like I remember your program had over 550 applications, and it was a lot of I would say 90% of them were very copy paste kind of businesses. No, no pun intended. It's just they were they wanted to be a copycat of something that is either local or international, while yours had like a twist, and that's what really but myself and my team sparked our interest, right? So but I want to know more, like where did the aha moment come from? Like where did you say, you know what, there's something there, I want to put my finger on it, and I want to see where this can go.
That's a really good question. And so I speak to a lot of friends about this as well. And so I thought, right, I sat down, I remember sitting down in my place in London thinking, okay, where do I see the world going? And I just looked within my market and I thought, well, I believe things are going to be traded more electronically. I believe things are going to be traded more directly. So not just with one institution, but everyone trading together. So I thought, I believe in these things. And so I thought, what product out there has a gap in this? And just from working in banking, I saw that equities and FX is clearly electronically traded. I worked on bonds, I worked on swaps, I worked in clearing, and I saw this one product, collateral, and I thought, well, that's been left behind. I looked to see why it was left behind. So I thought, well, I think I can do the same I did with other products with this product. So it became a really easy yes. And then I was like, great, let me just go for it. But also, I worked on one product that's crossed over with the collateral products. So the clients are really similar. Not so much the clients are similar, but the people trading are very similar. So I thought everything's leading me to do this. There were too many reasons to do it than not to do it. So I just did it.
That's very entrepreneurial of you. You looked at an area and you said, you know what, I think there's something there. And then I'm sure you Googled a couple of things and you're like, there's nothing really there that exactly what I wanted to do. And then you pursued it.
And then just on that, actually, so once I had that idea, I thought, well, is there a market for it? So then I spent a year speaking to all my clients around the world, visiting them as well. And it then helped me create a business plan. So when I was going to the Middle East, they were like, if I can help with the local side, they'll then give me the international side. I then took that away thinking, is this something I could do? I then realized I could do it. And then the business plan came out of that. So like I had that initial idea. I then did a bit market research, and then that kind of filled the plan out. So I always tell brands, you never need, I never need the end goal right away. I just know the vision I have, everyone trading together, and trading on a platform. That's like the goal I keep in mind. So that gives me the intention, the direction. And I don't have to have everything sorted. I just know this step, this step, this step, this step. Some people can look too much at the goal, and the gap between where they are and where they want to be, they just fill it with doubts and fears, and it's never going to happen. So I always make sure that I'm not cementing the future with like potential worries or failures, because then I'm just stepping upon that path. And so you've got to get the balance right between, I don't ever deviate from that vision, but I am very flexible in the steps I take to get there. A lot of people do it the other way around. They're very flexible in their vision and they're very inflexible in their steps. So I make sure that's the hardest bit sometimes to always maintain. But I think that's what everyone's really doing.
I like that approach. At least you know where you're going, but how you're going to get there is what the journey is all about, right? So, and I think that's a very good way to approach things, even in the startup world. Even in any business SMEs. And see, and a lot of times when I talk to a lot of people, especially founders or owners of SMEs, their goals are usually money driven or target. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with money. It's just a lot of times money is usually the result of you doing something really good, or you perfecting a process, or exactly where you want to go. So, and the money will be the result of that, and it can't be the main driver, it can't be the main goal. And that's what I think you've heard me say that before that as well.
Absolutely. I watched an RSA animation on what motivates people, and it's not money. And so I remember speaking to friends, and they say money is the byproduct of doing what you love. And if you focus on the money, then it's never going to get you in a good place. And so I like speaking to international clients. I like doing trading related activities. So I'm applying my passion to something. And if I do it really well, the money then comes. The money is the reward for following your passion in a really excelling way. And so I find when people just focus on the money, none of that money is going to ever be good enough. I've seen people working at banks and jobs they don't like, getting paid lots, and they just spend it more because they were hoping it made them feel happy, and it didn't. So you want more money to then spend more money, and you just always ending up not being particularly happy. So yeah, it's good to not do that.
It is a vicious cycle, I have to be honest. But so, okay, let's go back to getting on the journey. And I know you've had aspects of your journey. You said that you took an internship, that unpaid internship, and you took a loan and stuff like that, and you took a bet on yourself. So tell me about certain times in your life where you felt that there's only dead ends, or like only walls right in front of you and barriers. Like, how did you self pick yourself up, or how did you maneuver around these walls and these barriers?
So I always keep in mind that the future is a probability and anything can happen. And so when you're young, you just, like when I was 21, you don't project yourself down a negative path. So I remember being 21, even to my friends, I was like, I'm going to America. They're like, really? I'm like, why? I'm like, trying to get a job. And they're like, you're not getting paid. I said, yeah, I'll work it out. I just always really believed that if I worked well, not hard, but followed what I liked, it's always going to end up well. So I always had that as a really buoyant idea. And when you have that, I'm projecting that into the future, and I'm looking for goals and steps and choices and actions all in line with that. And so just to tie it in with your question, it's like, if I feel like I've got like a little pointer, I point this way, I'm projecting myself on a good path. If I'm doing it this way, I'm kind of projecting myself down a destructive path. And all the options are possible, but I've just removed all the good ones and just focusing on this. And then I convert my belief into a fact. I am going to fail. I'm not going to do well. I'm never going to find a way. So I find that when people start to in any industry, like even sports, when people look at the future and only focus on what might not go right, they then don't make choices in line with that. Because if I think, oh, I'm never going to get into banking, I'm not going to take myself to America. If I think, oh, I'm never going to be able to work on the trading floor, I'm never going to apply for a trading job. If I think things like that. And so I always make sure that my lens is very clean and it's objective. Like I don't deny a situation. I don't sit there and think, oh, I'm going to do really well with no contacts. I like, you know what, I've got no contacts. How can I get contacts? And so a lot of people think that being positive is what's needed, but I say it's being constructive. It's looking at a problem, but not creating momentum in that problem. I always think there's a solution in the problem. And so I use the problem as a bouncing off place. But a lot of people, when they look at problems, they create momentum and then they get stuck in it. And then they go, look, the world is unfair. I'm like, well, it could be, but also, you could also maybe try and create something for yourself. So I find failure comes from making the future down, projecting yourself down a destructive path and plodding along that. And so I always make sure that I always have my lens really clean.
I really like that, and I think maybe I'm gonna name this episode "Having Your Lens Very Clean." It's something I've honestly never heard of before, but it makes a lot of sense because a lot of people usually have to maneuver around the fog, right? Or but having a laser vision of at least what the next step is, not to the goal, but at least one step at
Just the
a
next
time.
step.
Exactly, and having a plan. I think a lot of people have goodwill thinking in where they think
Yeah.
they're going to end up, right? And they'll say, we'll figure it out. Even in Arabic, we have a say, we have that is very common.
Regarding the lens comment, it's really interesting because say both you and I go to a restaurant, I could say we could eat the same meal. I could say this meal is amazing, and you might say this meal is the worst I've ever had. And so what's more interesting is not the comments either of us make because we can only ever view life through our own lens or perception. And so I don't really, it's not so much whether what I say is right, what you say is right. It's like, what filter do I have? Am I always going to go to a restaurant and think it's always below me? Am I, because I may be used to high-end restaurants, if I go to somewhere else, that the food, no matter what it is, it's going to be awful. So I'm more interested in what filters they've put on in the words they're saying. But I also want to make sure that my filters really clean. And so for me, that is my beliefs. Like there's no other way to view life but through your own, I think, belief system.
Okay.
And so you create them. So a lot of people don't realize that. They could say, well, I'm not good, I'm never going to achieve my goals, and they pass that belief as a fact. So I always make sure that my beliefs are really constructive. And I notice when people have really destructive beliefs, that their lens gets really dirty, and then they start viewing things. Oh, this restaurant's crap. Look at the waiter, they did this, or why my bag's always late, or typical airline always. It's like, God, your lens needs a big clean out. Like, I don't deny when my flight is delayed. I think, okay, it's delayed for an hour. What should I do? Oh, let me sit in that coffee shop and maybe read that book I haven't got the chance to do. So I'd always look and see, well, I've got loads of goals I want to achieve. Let's see if I can fit that into this time. And so, yeah, I think that's really important.
Cool. No, you know what? Like, you make a lot of sense. So this is definitely something people should consider more often. And I think the clarity that you're talking about is something that is very, very needed. Actually, a lot of people they know they want to play in that area, but they do not know exactly what to do and stuff like that. So let me ask you this question, and I know
Yeah.
this is something I've been asking some of my guests as well. You know what a BHAG is, right? Like
A what?
the BHAG.
No.
So this is a term. So the term BHAG is I don't know if it's a techie term now, but it's something very startup-y, which doesn't mean it really mean also tech, but a BHAG literally translates to big, hairy, audacious goals or ambitious
Got
goals.
it. Okay.
Okay? So what is Steven's BHAG, either for the business or for yourself, for the next 10 years? Like, where do you want to be in 10 years? I know it's like a
So
very mythical question, but like I want to know where do you stand on that?
So I read what I listened to a YouTube video, RSA, what motivates us. And it's not money, it's things like having a sense of purpose, having mastery over a new skill. Like people like to play instruments because it doesn't get you money if you're doing it for hobby, but because you're getting better and better and better, that mastery has a good sense of intent within you. And the next one is you want to make a bit of a ding in the world. They're the main three ones. I thought, you know what, I want to make a bit of a ding in the world. I wonder how I can do that. And so I have that as my BHAG, I think that's what you said. And so I think, how can I do that? And then I think, well, what are my natural skills? What's my natural passion? So long as I can express my natural passion without compromising myself in destructive ways, that's what I want to do. Because if you are able to express the natural gifts you have in the best of your capacity, I think it always leads the most to to the best outcomes. So I always want to do that. I always want to be really, I tell myself I want to be as bold as I can, as creative as I can, and as imaginative as I can. I don't want to create limiting goals for myself. So I thought, what's the biggest one you can have is like just create a bit of a ding in the world or universe and see how far you can get.
Okay. So, and do you foresee any obstacles or in the near future that would prevent you doing it, getting to those, what you just said earlier?
Yeah. So then I've got my goal up there, and I think, well, what's my next step? My step now, my current steps are, maybe I want to improve the technology that is more in line with, say, blockchain. I don't know anyone yet, but I'm going to speak to people about my interest in that and see what comes up. And so for me, it's being confident in talking about the topics that will get me to that goal. A lot of people don't want to talk about their goals, but I'm happy to. And I think, you know what, if I want to do, say, blockchain type solution, I need to work with the whole financial infrastructure. So I'm speaking to the infrastructure and I'm having conversation with them. I'm having meetings with them. I'm putting myself forward for there. And so I look at where I need to be in that next few steps and then try and create opportunities for me to learn and incorporate that into my company. Then when I get to that step, there'll be new goals. So all I'm ever doing is bridging the gap between where I am and where I want to be. And so I've got to get really comfortable with doing that. And so, like, it's not as if I've got 5 obstacles I need to overcome. It's more a case of, okay, right now I want to do blockchain technology. I need to speak to some IT people. I need to see how that, if they're finance related, I need to see how that works with the infrastructure. I need to see if the dynamics can change where the infrastructure and blockchain create a new type of quasi solution. So I'm always just thinking like that.
And saying that, for you, Stephen, I know you're in Dubai right now, and I know you are, setting up your office here and all that good stuff. But where do you see you and your company's next step would be?
So my vision is for international clients to trade local assets. And I see, well, that's the goal I have. And how can that start? And so I want to get local people within one country trading together, create momentum in that one country. Then I can connect 2 countries. Then I can connect the region within one countries, do the same in different regions, and then connect the regions. And then I'll be able to create market depth within, say, the Middle East. Then that will draw in international players because there's depth and liquidity. And so that's my ultimate goal of what I want. And I understand the steps I need to get there. They might change along the way, but that's a nice blueprint to have at this current time. And I'm also looking to maybe update that, but never the end goal.
Amazing, amazing. So, what one tip would you give our audience?
Yes.
What you've learned in the last, and especially we're talking about how you grouped yourself a couple of times. Give us a couple of pointers for the audience. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that.
I always make sure I'm never projecting my life, my goals, my future down a destructive path, because the probabilities of future, I always tell myself that. So then I think, what future do I want? What do I want to do? What do I want to achieve? And then I make sure that I have beliefs in line with that. Because I could believe that, I'm going to be the best, I don't know, trading platform in the world. But if I really don't believe that, then I'm not going to make choices in line with it. So step one, I always make sure that I'm projecting myself down a constructive path. And step two, I always make sure I have beliefs in line with that. But then I'm always making sure I'm having actions in line with that. Like I came to UAE from London, and I hadn't been accepted onto the program just yet. And so I came anyway. And I thought, you know what, I'm going to make it work regardless if I'm on the program. And so I made sure my beliefs were in line with that, because if I was on the program, I could do A, B, and C. And if I wasn't on the program, I still need to do it. So I'll do C, D, and E. And so I just made sure that my beliefs were really in line. And I always make sure that it's not a blind belief, or it's just not a, something that you just think on the spur of the moment. I make sure that I think about, I'm going to come to UAE. I think for a few months, well, what can I do? What have I got contacts? Can I afford to live somewhere? Can I network? Like, yeah, all these things I can do. So I make sure that I back it up with a few steps ahead, but not too far, but just enough to create momentum.
That's very good advice. I think I didn't know that you actually took the leap of faith in actually moving to Dubai before even the program. That adds a bit of you know, I guess it adds to the story. So
Yeah,
you did that. See, it worked out. Everything worked out for you. So
super happy.
cool. So okay, let me throw at you my curveball question that I'm asking all of my guests.
Sure.
So my question is a two-parted question. You can answer either or, you can answer both. So if you have a superpower, what would that be?
Yeah.
Or if you would like to mimic a superhero, who might that be?
So I like Avengers, and I quite like the superpower that Doctor Strange has. He's able to see in time.
Okay.
But really to do that, because the future is a probability, you're more seeing, and so I believe nothing's ever predetermined, but there are maybe paths that are more likely to happen than others. So he's able to like run scenarios in his mind or whatever, however he does it, and think, you know what, this is the most likely scenario. And so let's try and do this. Or I think they wanted to save the world, but it's like 0.1% chance of doing it. And if you want to hit that 1%, these are the things you need to do. So just having that information where the future becomes a little bit more solid is really useful, because you feel more confident. You can then make those choices in line with your goals. So for me, it's the ability to understand probability, time, and the future a bit better, so I can action it.
Okay. That's Doctor Strange is definitely one of those up there, and I think I would add to you is like the planner, is you would be like, that's a good. By the way, like there isn't a lot of people that plan, and the planner would be like a good superhero if you have a plan. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of people wing everything in life, right? So
Yeah,
it's good to know. And Doctor Strange is definitely, this is the first time we hear that on the show, so it's good
I
that.
think I think it's got a new film coming out, so I think that's coming out maybe this year or next year. So I'm looking forward to watching that.
Yeah, definitely. I am a big Marvel superhero guy. I'm actually wearing a Superman shirt as we speak.
Perfect.
Thank you, Steven. It was a very
Thank
good
you.
conversation for coming on the Abez Show. We have a hashtag that we are using, which is hashtag Real Talk No Nonsense. I think today you hit the nail on its head by opening up and talking about everything that you experienced. Until next time, thank you very much again, Steven, and thank you, audience. Take care. Bye bye.
Thank you.